the disabled war hero dog everyone ignores until a child make a heartbreaking request. In the heart of a bustling military base in the Middle East, a German shepherd named Max stood proudly among the soldiers. Max wasn't just any dog. He was a war hero, trained to detect mines, sense danger, and protect the men and women serving in the U.S. Army. His reputation had spread far and wide across the ranks, with stories of his bravery becoming the stuff of legend. Smart, strong, and fiercely loyal, Max had become an indispensable member of the unit. Max's journey to heroism began long before the war. Born into a specialized training program for military working dogs, Max had shown extraordinary promise from a young age. His sharp instincts, coupled with an almost human-like intelligence, made him the perfect candidate for high-stakes missions. By the time he was 2 years old, Max had completed rigorous training in bomb detection, patrol, and search and rescue operations. When Max was deployed to the Middle East with his handler, Sergeant Jake Miller, he quickly became an integral part of the team. His keen sense of smell and ability to detect explosives saved countless lives. Max's presence brought a sense of security to the soldiers. They knew that if Max was leading the way, they could trust him to sniff out danger before it struck. The soldiers loved Max not only for his skills but also for his personality. During moments of downtime, he would play fetch, wag his tail enthusiastically, or simply sit beside a weary soldier, offering silent comfort. Max had a way of lifting spirits, even in the darkest moments of war. Over the course of his service, Max participated in over 50 missions. He had uncovered hidden caches of weapons, detected IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and even found survivors in the aftermath of ambushes. His bravery earned him the respect and admiration of everyone in the unit. Max was more than a dog. He was family. One morning, the unit received orders to clear a remote village suspected of being rigged with explosives. The soldiers prepared for the mission, their faces etched with determination. As they loaded into their convoy of armored trucks, Max sat beside Sergeant Miller, his ears perked up. He could sense the tension in the air. As the convoy neared the village, Max began to act strangely. His ears flattened, his tail stiffened, and he let out a low growl. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Max had never behaved like this before. "He's sensing something," Miller said, his voice filled with concern. "We should stop and let him check it out." The convoy came to a halt on the dusty road. Max jumped out of the truck, his nose to the ground. He moved cautiously, his every step deliberate. The soldiers watched in silence as Max advanced, his body tense. Suddenly, there was a sharp click, a sound that sent chills down their spines. Max had triggered a landmine. The explosion that followed was deafening. Dust and debris filled the air as the soldiers dove for cover. When the dust settled, they saw Max lying on the ground, whimpering softly. Despite the pain, he had saved the convoy from driving straight into a minefield, a move that would have resulted in catastrophic losses. "Max is down," Miller shouted, rushing to his companion's side. The medics sprang into action, carefully lifting the wounded dog onto a stretcher. Max's left hind leg was badly injured, bleeding profusely. His once proud eyes were now clouded with pain, but he still looked up at Miller, his tail wagging faintly as if to reassure his handler. The medics worked quickly, stabilizing Max before rushing him back to the base. The entire unit was on edge, their hearts heavy with worry. Max had been their guardian angel, and now he needed their protection. At the base, the veterinary team fought to save Max's life. After hours of surgery, they managed to stabilize him, but his left hind leg was too damaged to heal. The difficult decision was made to amputate the leg. When Max woke up from surgery, he was disoriented but alive. The soldiers took turns visiting him, bringing treats and offering words of encouragement. Despite his injury, Max's spirit remained unbroken. His determination to recover inspired everyone around him. As Max healed, he was fitted with a custom-made prosthetic leg. At first, it was a struggle for him to adjust. Walking felt awkward and he often stumbled. But Max was no ordinary dog, he was a fighter. With time, patience, and the support of his unit, He learned to walk, run, and even play with his new leg. Though Max's military career had come to an end, his service was far from forgotten. The army decided to honor him by sending him back to the United States, where he could live out his retirement in peace. He was placed in an animal shelter for retired working dogs, a facility dedicated to providing care and love for canine heroes. At the animal shelter, Max's days were lonely. Though the staff were kind, nothing could replace the bond he had once shared with the soldiers he had served alongside. His artificial leg, a constant reminder of his bravery, became the reason he was overlooked time and time again. Prospective adopters came, marveling at the other dog's youthful energy and health. But when they saw Max, they often whispered words like, "He's too old," or "a disabled dog. He'd be too much trouble." As the days turned into weeks, the other dogs were adopted one by one. Soon, Max was the only one left. The shelter's halls echoed with emptiness, amplifying his sadness. He would sit in his kennel, gazing longingly at the door, his tail wagging faintly at the sight of visitors, only for it to droop moments later when they passed him by. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, the staff could hear soft whimpers coming from Max's corner. He longed for love, for a home where he could be valued not for his physical abilities, but for his heart. Across the street from the shelter was a modest house belonging to the Thompson family. A loving trio: Mark, his wife Sarah, and their 5-year-old son, Oliver. They were returning from a 3-month vacation. The Thompsons weren't wealthy, but they cherished each other and found joy in the little things. Oliver was a curious and imaginative boy who often spent his days by the window of his room, observing the world outside. A week after their return, Oliver's eyes fell on Max for the first time. The dog had been let out of the shelter to stretch his legs in the yard. Max's demeanor immediately caught the boy's attention. His drooping ears, the sadness in his eyes, and the way he seemed to move as if carrying an invisible burden. "Mommy, why does that dog look so sad?" Oliver asked his mother later that evening. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," Sarah replied, brushing his hair. "Maybe he's lonely." The next morning, Oliver woke up determined to meet the sad dog. His parents had gone to work, and his nanny had dozed off in the living room. It was the school holidays, and Oliver had plenty of free time. Spotting Max again outside the shelter, he tiptoed out of his room, determined to say hello. As he crossed the yard toward the shelter, a speeding car suddenly came tearing down the street. The roar of the engine startled Oliver, and before he could react, the car brushed past him, its sheer force enough to shock the little boy into fainting. From across the street, Max had seen everything. His instincts kicked in, and despite his artificial leg, he sprinted toward Oliver. He reached the boy in moments, nudging him with his nose and barking loudly to alert the shelter staff. The commotion brought the staff running. Seeing Oliver unconscious, they quickly tried to stabilize him and called for an ambulance. As they waited, Max stayed close, his large body shielding the boy from any further harm. When Oliver's parents arrived at the hospital, they were overwhelmed with gratitude upon hearing how Max had saved their son. "A dog with so much heart doesn't deserve to be left alone," Mark told Sarah, his voice filled with emotion. After Oliver recovered and returned home, he couldn't stop talking about Mac. "He saved me, Daddy. He's a hero. Can we please bring him home?" Though the Thompsons hadn't planned on adopting a pet, they couldn't deny Max had become a part of their lives. When they arrived at the shelter to complete the adoption, Max's tail wagged for the first time in weeks. He seemed to sense this family was different. From the moment Max stepped into the Thompson household, his life changed. Oliver showered him with love and attention, often curling up beside him for naps or showing him off to his friends as the bravest dog in the world. Despite his artificial leg, Max adapted quickly to his new life. He would accompany Oliver to the park, watch over him as he played, and even sleep beside his bed every night. As time went on, the bond between Max and Oliver grew stronger. Oliver didn't see Max as a disabled dog, but as a friend, protector, and hero. Their story began to spread throughout the neighborhood, inspiring others to consider adopting animals with disabilities. Max's days of loneliness and rejection were now a distant memory. In the Thompson home, he found not only love but also a purpose. He was no longer just a hero police dog but a cherished member of a family. A dog who proved that even after hardship, happiness and belonging could be found. Max had saved lives on the battlefield, but in the end, it was the unconditional love of a little boy that saved him. Months passed, and Max thrived in the Thompson household. His days were filled with joy and purpose, whether it was guarding Oliver as he played in the yard or accompanying the family on their weekend outings. The once lonely dog had finally found a family that cherished him unconditionally. News of Max's heroic act and his adoption by the Thompsons continued to circulate. One day, an officer from the local police department, Sergeant Daniels, visited the Thompsons' home. Daniels was a former K-9 handler and had heard about Max's remarkable history as a military service dog. "We could use a dog like Max," Daniels said, sitting in the Thompsons' cozy living room. "He's got the instincts, the experience, and the heart. We'd like to recruit him to help train our new generation of police dogs." Mark and Sarah exchanged uncertain glances. Oliver, who was playing with Max on the floor, looked up in alarm. "Does that mean he has to leave us?" Oliver asked, his voice trembling. Daniels smiled kindly. "Not necessarily. Max wouldn't be a full-time service dog again. He'd help us a few days a week, teaching other dogs how to detect danger, track suspects, and protect their handlers. He'd come home to you after every session." Mark and Sarah discussed the proposal after Daniels left. On one hand, it was a tremendous honor and a chance for Max to return to the work he excelled at. On the other hand, they feared it might take a toll on him. Max had already given so much in his life. Did he deserve to be pulled away from the family that finally made him whole? Oliver, however, was heartbroken at the idea of Max leaving, even for a few hours. "He's my best friend," the boy said tearfully. "What if he doesn't come back one day?" Seeing their son's distress, Mark and Sarah decided to leave the choice up to Max. The following week, Max accompanied Sergeant Daniels to the police training academy for a trial session. Despite his artificial leg, Max moved with confidence and precision, demonstrating techniques to young police dogs and impressing the officers. During one exercise, a rookie dog struggled to stay focused while searching for a hidden item. Max nudged the younger dog gently, guiding it back on track. Daniels watched in awe as Max's calm and commanding presence transformed the rookie's behavior. "He's a natural," Daniels said to himself. After the session, however, Max looked visibly tired. When he returned home, he lay by Oliver's side, his eyes filled with longing. It was as if he was trying to tell the family he couldn't bear to be away from them for too long. As the weeks went on, Max continued to help at the academy. But each time he returned home, he seemed more torn. He loved the thrill of working and mentoring younger dogs, but his heart belonged to the Thompsons. One evening, as the family sat together watching a movie, Oliver curled up against Max, stroking his fur. "I don't want you to go, Max," Oliver whispered. Mark and Sarah noticed how Max's ears perked up at Oliver's words. They had seen this internal struggle in Max for weeks now. "We don't want to lose you either," Sarah said softly. "You've already done so much for the world, Max. Maybe it's time to just be with us." The next day, Mark called Sergeant Daniels to inform him of their decision. "Max has given enough to the world," Mark said. "Now it's our turn to give him the love and peace he's earned." Daniels understood, though he was disappointed. "Max is one of a kind," he said. "The department will always remember him as a hero." Though Max no longer visited the academy, his legacy lived on. The young police dogs he had trained were excelling in their roles, and the officers often spoke of Max's influence. To honor him, the department held a special ceremony, presenting Max with a medal for his service and bravery. Oliver proudly accepted the medal on Max's behalf, hugging his furry companion tightly as the audience applauded. "Max is the best dog in the world," Oliver said, his voice filled with pride. Back home, the medal was placed on the mantle, a reminder of Max's incredible journey. From a weak puppy left to die, to a hero who saved lives, to a cherished member of a family that loved him unconditionally. Max spent the rest of his days with the Thompsons, enjoying the quiet life he had always deserved. He watched Oliver grow, standing by his side through every milestone. The once broken dog had found healing in love and purpose in the simple joys of family life. Max's story became a symbol of resilience, courage, and the power of second chances. And though his days of service were behind him, he continued to be a hero in the eyes of those who loved him.